going on to all my horror fans out there, and welcome back to my channel, MovieFiles. Today we are discussing the new horror film by the name of Barbarian, which will be available in theaters today. Now, this film, I have heard nothing but best film of the year, easily the best horror film of the year. I just got done from seeing it in theaters, and by the end of this review, I'm going to let you all know if I agree with a lot of those sentiments or if I'm on the complete opposite side of the fence. We'll be discussing that and so much more in today's spoiler-free review. But before we get into the breakdown, if you haven't already, consider subscribing to the channel and hitting that notification bell. That way you don't miss out on any of the daily content we post here on the channel. You can also give your boy a follow on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. All those links can be found in the description of this video. If you enjoyed my review today, make sure you're giving your boy a thumbs up and also sharing this review. But more importantly, I need you to talk about this film with me in the comments below. Let's talk about the experience. Were you on the edge of your seat watching this film? Were you terrified? Did you have a good laugh? The twists, the turns, did you enjoy them? The reveal? Were you disappointed? And also, for my horror fans out there, it's been a really good year for horror. Let me know your top 3 horror films that you have seen so far this year in the comment section. So this film premiered at Comic-Con this year, and literally everyone I've spoken to about this movie that got a chance to see it early or just saw it a couple days ago, best film of the year, best horror film of the year. Now, coming from someone that's a horror fanatic, I grew up on horror, sci-fi, favorite genres. My bar was pretty high for this film because there were some people I spoke to that I respect, especially that are horror fans. And I'm like, listen, if this lives up to the expectations, I might be on that bandwagon. But I'm here to tell you all right now, there are definitely elements that I absolutely loved as storytelling, as an element of horror, an element of surprise, performances. And then there are elements about this film that I didn't really care for. And we're going to get into that without spoiling it, of course, a little bit later. But let's get into Zach, the director here, Zach Cregger, who wrote and directed this film. This is my first time seeing one of his projects. What a hell of a job. What a home run of a direction here. There were just a little bit of nuances, and especially coming from the horror background that I come from, this film has a little bit of The Descent, Neil Marshall's Descent, one of my favorite horror films of all time. This has a little bit of Alfred Hitchcock going on. The suspense that is built within this film is just fantastic. The camera work reminded me of a little bit of my boy Sam Raimi, some Evil Deadisms going on in this film. So again, it's not a copy and paste type of movie. There's just homages, and being the horror fan that I am, there are certain things that Zach does to navigate you through this narrative, whether it be the camera work, the lighting in this film, especially when we descend into our basement that we'll get into here in a little bit. There is just a lot of things that I appreciated from a directional standpoint, but also the writing was very on point. There's a lot of things going on in this movie that I did not anticipate, and you all have probably heard this already. Go in without knowing anything, go in without watching a trailer. Don't even read the damn synopsis, and I can appreciate that. But man, I was very, very surprised by the strong direction in writing this film, but kind of pivoting over to a little bit of that story and the performances. Now, just to let you all know that aren't you familiar with this film, very simple premise. You have a young lady by the name of Tess who's going on a job interview in Detroit, and she is renting an Airbnb, and unfortunately there's another gentleman by the name of Keith, played by the great Bill Skarsgård. What are we going to do, Tess? How are we going to figure this out? They eventually kind of work things out, but unfortunately, this house has a lot more going on to it, and particularly in the basement. And that's all as far as I want to go with the storyline. But going into those performances, I mentioned Tess, and we have Keith. First and foremost, Bill Skarsgård. The man in horror is like peanut butter and jelly. He is just meant to be in this genre. There is something that Bill is doing in this film that just makes you just kind of like question his motives, that you question him as an individual. And there are so many moments in this film that you're just like, what's going on with this guy? Because again, this is Pennywise. You know, how can you trust the dancing clown? But nonetheless, I thought Bill Skarsgård fit perfectly within this narrative. But walking out of the film, another newcomer for me, Georgina Campbell, who is Tess in this movie. Again, I'm not too familiar with her work. Boy, is she a star. She really carries a narrative. She does such a great job of making you just go on this journey that she's on. Again, the suspense, the development, the layers that she has. Without getting too much into her backstory, there's something that she says very early on in the film that really kind of explains who she is as a person. And just to kind of touch on that a little bit, she sees the good in people, which explains certain decisions that she makes in this film, but she also kind of gravitates towards people that might not be good for her. So I really enjoyed the little nuances, the bits of comedy she provides in this film. For any Jordan Peele fans out there, you'll know what I mean when you see the film. But I thought she was fantastic. And if you've seen the trailer, Justin Long, I'm a big fan of his. The man needs to be in more horror film. Jeepers Creepers 1 and 2, he's great in those films. He is very interesting in this movie. He is a douchebag, and I just kind of leave it at that. And there's even a nice little subplot that he's going on through, this journey that he goes on with that has a very satisfying ending. But performances were great, and the nuance in this story, there's the superficial surface level to the story, again, the surprises, the spooks, the scares, the twists, the turns that was really well developed, especially in the first half. But the story that's going on here and the themes that I took away from this film, again, taking the good out of people, hoping for the best for people, doing the right thing. Also, this kind of tale of you get what you deserve, karma. It's just a lot of good things that's going on with this narrative. And again, the thing that I found to be the best element of this film, this first half of the movie, fantastic. Like literally the tension, the suspense, the mystery, again, the performances, direction. I'm telling y'all right now, from a first half perspective, this is one of the most engaging films I've seen all year in regards to just being so locked into the script, locked into the performances, and going on this mystery journey, because it's almost 3 films going on in this movie. The first half is the mystery. The second half is kind of get into the more horrific elements of the film. And the third half gets more into the more thriller and kind of crazy bonkerness. So again, I was just on this journey. And again, I can't stress it enough. The first half of this film is absolutely home run, edge of your seat, great movie. Unfortunately, there's a second half of this movie. And not that the second half was terrible. My thing with this film is the build-up, the suspense, and when we get to the reveal, it didn't really work out for me. Now, there are things that are explained to us as an audience that I just kind of found, from a logical standpoint, to not make the most logical sense. Now, this film takes place in Detroit, and I have some homies and some friends of mine. I've never been down there, and I know that Detroit has some hard times. And again, this kind of reminds me of Don't Breathe a little bit too, because there's a little bit of element of some social commentary being said in regards to just the housing and kind of the situations that are being done in Detroit. But there is a layer and there's an element of this film that I wish we could have got that movie, especially when there's a twist that happens. There's a switch in the narrative that happens, and I'm like, and that's where Justin Long is involved. I'm like, I don't know if I'm vibing with this new element to the film compared to the first half. But then I'm like, okay, this person, bit of a douchebag, a little bit of a story that we got going here. And then again, another switch that happens. And that switch, I'm like, listen, the first plot, this new plot, that film, I really wish we would have dove deeper into the narrative, but then we focus more on that Justin Long thing, which comes more into the third act of the film, which I just didn't find as engaging as plot A and plot C. And again, that B plot just wasn't as strong and as nuanced as those other 2 plots I just mentioned. And then when we get down to that third act, it gets a little hokey. I mentioned that it reminded me a little bit of Sam Raimi, a little bit of Evil Dead, more Evil Dead 2 than Evil Dead 1. And when you kind of see the reveal, you're just like, I'm not really digging this, because it was so grounded and so rooted in reality, and it didn't get flimsical or fantasy or too over the top, but it just wasn't sticking the landing that I was getting out of that first half of the film. So with all that being said, Elliot, is it one of the best films of the year? I don't think so. Is it one of the best horror films of the year? Definitely top 3. At the end of the day, how I'm feeling about this film now on first watch, it's a 3.8 out of 5 for me. Again, there's a lot of fun to be had with this film, a lot of good nuances of performances, really strong performances coming from the directional standpoint, really great suspense, especially in that first half. But for me, I'm more of a person that I can go with an okay first half and then get a home run ending, but I'm not the best fan of a fantastic first half with an ending that doesn't really stick the landing for me. So that's where my 3.8 out of 5 comes from me. And you got to see this movie in theaters, because you don't want to get spoiled, number one, but also it's an experience that I think you're going to have a good time with. So 3.8 out of 5, definitely go check it out. And when you do, let me know your pros, your cons, your thoughts on the performances, the twists, the turns. Did the reveal work for you? I found it to be a little kind of predictable, but let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you stuck around to this point in the review, thank you so much for the support. Again, just a friendly reminder before you leave, like, share, comment, come and subscribe to the channel and join this awesome community. It's spooky season. We got a lot more horror coming for you all, and I plan on covering a lot of horror come this holiday season. But again, from me to you, I appreciate you guys. As you can see on the screen now, come and join the community. Check out my most recent reviews, check out my most recent breakdown, and we'll catch you all on the next video.